Have you ever wondered why you swipe right on some people and left on others? Or why the person who gives you butterflies one minute can drive you absolutely crazy the next? Well, guess what? These aren't just modern dating problems. The answers are millions of years old, literally hidden in our evolutionary past. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain on the ancient blueprint that's still shaping our modern desires.
I love this quote from biologist Helena Cronin because it just hits the nail on the head. It's this idea that to really understand our modern desires, who we love, who we fight with, we have to look back at our evolutionary history. The problems our ancestors solved, believe it or not, are still pulling the strings on our choices today, whether we realize it or not.
All right, so let's start with the big one, the central puzzle. Love's great mystery.
I mean, think about it. We are obsessed with finding a partner. We build our lives around it. We hope for it. We dream of it. And yet, so often, that same search leads to conflict, betrayal, and just, massive heartbreak. So why? Why is there such a huge gap between the dream of love and the often really, really difficult reality of it?
It's what you could call the mating paradox. On one side, you've got all our cultural ideals, finding the one, lifelong love, happily ever after, the whole fairy tale. But then you look at the other side, and the statistical reality is, well, pretty stark. High affair rates, high divorce rates. The thing to get here is that this isn't just about personal failure. This conflict, it's the norm. And we're about to dig into the deep evolutionary reasons why.
And to really get to that why, we need to look under the hood at the powerful engine that has been sculpting our desires for millennia: sexual selection.
This was actually Darwin's other brilliant idea. It's not just about survival of the fittest. In a way, it's about reproduction of the sexiest. The whole process of finding, attracting, and keeping a mate has shaped our psychology in these incredibly profound ways that, still play out in every single part of our relationships today.
So you can basically break sexual selection down into two main things. First, you've got competition. Think of it as just trying to outdo your rivals. And second, you've got choice, which is all about being what the other sex wants. These two forces, they work together, and they've shaped everything from our bodies to the way we think. For a classic example of competition, just picture two stags locking horns. And those massive antlers, they aren't primarily for fighting off predators. Nope, they're weapons for battling other males for the right to mate. The winners get to pass on their genes for size and strength, while the losers, well, they don't.
And this perfectly shows the other side of the coin: choice. A peacock's huge, glittery tail is actually a terrible idea for survival. It's heavy, it's clumsy, and it basically screams, "Hey predators, free lunch over here." So why on earth does he have it? Simple. Because for countless generations, peahens have preferred to mate with the males who have the most dazzling, over-the-top displays. That tail is an advertisement that says, "I have awesome genes and I'm super healthy."
Okay, so how does this all apply to us? What are the human equivalents of the stag's antlers or the peacock's tail? What have we as humans actually evolved to find desirable in a long-term partner?
Now, this is where it gets really fascinating, because these preferences reflect the different evolutionary challenges men and women faced. For long-term partners, women, on average, evolved to prioritize cues that a man could invest and protect, things like ambition, status, and resources. Men, on the other hand, tended to prioritize cues to a woman's fertility and health, like youth and physical appearance. And here's a really key one for men: faithfulness. This links back to something called paternity certainty, basically a man's confidence that a child is actually his. But look at the bottom. Notice how both sexes deeply, deeply value kindness and dependability. That's the essential glue for any successful long-term partnership.
Okay, so we've got our evolved wish list. But how do we actually go about getting what we want? Mating isn't just a passive shopping trip. It's an active, competitive game, and it's full of complex strategies.
See, getting a mate isn't just about making yourself look good. A huge part of it is about making your rivals look bad. And what's wild is how specific these tactics can be. People might subtly question a rival's ambition, directly targeting that female preference for resources. Or they might cast doubt on a rival's faithfulness, which targets that male concern over paternity. It's this incredibly strategic game of perception.
And if you're wondering why the competition is so fierce, especially among men, this number gives you a pretty big clue. Throughout history, the potential ceiling for male reproductive success has been, astronomically high. Emperor Moulay Ismail is said to have fathered 888 children. That kind of massive potential payoff drove intense, sometimes violent competition among men for the status and power that women preferred.
But attracting a mate, that's only half the battle. The next great evolutionary challenge is keeping him, especially when you know that rivals are always lurking around the corner. The animal kingdom gives us some really vivid and kind of weird examples of what scientists call mate guarding strategies. The male love bug, for instance, stays physically attached to the female for up to 3 days after mating. Let me be clear, this is not romantic. It is a living chastity belt, physically blocking any other males from getting a chance. Other strategies are more about concealment. A male wasp will literally whisk a female away from paths where other males might find her, basically reducing her contact with any potential competitors. He's hiding his mate from view. So what's the human version of this? It's that powerful, often really painful emotion of jealousy. That feeling didn't just appear out of nowhere. It is the human equivalent of these mate-guarding strategies. It's an evolved alarm system designed to alert us to potential threats to our relationship and motivate us to protect it. So this brings us to the big question. If we have this ancient blueprint rattling around in our minds, what does that actually mean for us today, living in our complex modern world? This is probably the single biggest misunderstanding about evolutionary psychology. Does understanding this ancient logic mean we're just doomed to act it out? Are we just blind, unthinking robots? The answer is a huge, definitive no. And this quote really says it all. Every single thing we do is a product of our evolved psychology interacting with our modern environment, our culture, our personal experiences. Our genes are not puppet masters. They give us a set of psychological tools and tendencies, sure, but our conscious choices determine how and if we use them. And this, right here, is the crucial, empowering takeaway. Understanding this blueprint isn't a life sentence. It's more like an instruction manual. By understanding the ancient roots of jealousy, for example, we're so much better equipped to manage that feeling instead of letting it control us. We can anticipate the friction points in our relationships with way more wisdom and empathy. And so we'll end with this thought. We are the first species on this planet that can actually look back and understand the evolutionary forces that created us. Does that knowledge give us a unique kind of power? The power to consciously design a future with more fulfilling relationships? By understanding our deep past, we might just be able to create a better future for love.